The only way, though, to break the system is you got to live under the rule of the people who are winning. Because and this is the saying I had. We're throwing it out. We're doing a couple things here.
I'm not okay.
We're doing a couple things here. We're doing a couple things here. Risk taking is the only road to success.
Agreed.
Now, I did not say that you taking a risk and me taking a risk and him taking a risk are the same. But the truth is that if any one of us want a chance, we all got to be willing to do it. This is where social systems have to come in place to give people the opportunity to take those risks. And that's where our societies fail.
Absolutely.
And this is where there's anger in some communities because they're saying, you guys are telling me to take a risk, but you're not putting systems in place
for me to
that don't rob me of my life if I do it.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But I still have to come back and say, but we got to take the risk.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? So that's more what I mean. Like when I say there is no path that isn't that one.
Yeah. No,
it's
I
harder.
agree.
It's more difficult. For some, it's impossible. That's capitalism. Going to school, staying in school long enough to get multiple degrees.
Yeah.
Risk.
Yeah. You're right. I'm not, the reason why I was struggling is, like I said, is not because what you were saying was wrong, but because I know of those other realities. I mean, you know of those other realities as well. We know of those other realities. And so that's also probably the social worker in me that's like, but what about these people? And what about them?
And the capitalist in me, the scary capitalist in me.
It's scary, terrifying.
Because I wasn't like this when I was born. I wasn't even like this when I was raised. Sometimes I talk to my family and they get like I'll share some stuff because this is not nice. What happens to, this is another thing I try and explain to people. If you're a man or a woman and you start out, okay, so 90s middle class, 13% interest rate. So if you start out 90s middle class or around middle class, and then you get to upper class, the places that you go to come out the other side are not nice places. You don't relate to the people that raised you anymore.
Wow.
Because you run with hyenas and wolves and sharks. And think about some of your coworkers. Think about some of the beliefs you had to listen to in class. Think about some of the things you couldn't defend.
Yeah.
Because you have to maintain professionalism and decorum. Think about certain things that, they say right now we fight for freedom of speech, which means I also have to defend your right to tell me something I find wildly offensive.
Yeah.
But that's the system.
Yeah.
Those are not nice places to go and come out the other side. Do you see what I'm saying? But my call, when I think of my call to my community we have to go though. So let's listen about why it's harder. Let's listen about why it's more difficult. It does not change the path we must take though. Because they're not going to make it any easier. The bar is not going to get any smaller for us. The bar is the bar. The fact that we're starting from the sub-basement, the fact that we're starting from 2 feet up, it doesn't matter where we're starting from. The bar's the bar. Let's go get it.
I hear you. I do.
But here we are.
I do hear you.
Yeah.
And I do believe, it's evident that what you're saying is true because we live in the society that we live in and it looks like what it looks like. I think my integrity though is struggling.
Wow.
Because it feels as though if I agree completely that I am saying that, I know this is not what you're saying, but what it feels like for me is that if I agree with that completely is to say that I'm okay with perpetuating that bar being where it is.
Wow.
Because if we're saying, listen, I hear you, it's hard, I get it, it's so unfair, but this is the way, then it's going to continue being the way. And if we look back in history, the people who made really big social changes are the ones who said, we are not okay with this being the way anymore. And so we are going to rebel. And we are going to not go that way anymore. And they could kill me. They could run me over. They could spray mace in my eyes, but I'm not going that way.
I feel challenged by what you said personally because it probably identifies something that is true that I didn't know I was thinking. Okay, community-wise. There's a couple of things that are important to me, community-wise. And it's not important to the people who hold the keys. So I decided to try and get some keys. So I listened to a lot of corporate conversation. I was at a conversation. I was at a business lunch once in the States. So this is a bit different, but it's in the States, doing business. And in the business meeting, I was the power dynamic, you know. And I had somebody look at me and say, well, Trivelle, surely you don't believe in critical race theory. Look how you're doing. Now, the conversation is going to be what the conversation is. Keys. You need keys. Because if you don't have keys, they can dismiss what you're saying as complaining. We need to own stuff now.
I hear you.
And owning things and being able to do it. Okay. I think we're both speaking from we're talking around it, but we're both speaking from a similar community, from a similar community outlook, right? The thing that I've been so impressed by, horrified and yet impressed by, is what the Saudis have been able to do. And I'll tell you why. Golf is Americana. That is, you need money to even walk this grass. A post 9/11 North America, for those who recall, they saw a lot of the people in the Middle East same. The Saudis have a colorful history politically. They should never be able to buy Americana. But just raw and utter capitalism, then you had no choice. For those who are soccer fans, and you remember what it was like when Qatar won the bid for the World Cup, that is the world's biggest sport. That has never in its entire history been played in the winter until the guys with the pocketbook came and said, no, but we want you to play here. They said, yeah, all our stadiums will have AC and we're going to put domes in. And then they just didn't. And we still had to go. Keys. Now, everybody loves talking about going to Dubai. Like these cultural echoes, I see the connective tissue of all these things.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go to Dubai. Every other thing is happening in Saudi. New fights are happening in Saudi. Sports want to go to Saudi. Saudi's buying a fight league. They're invested in, I think it's 25 of the Fortune 500 companies in massive way because it's for sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, I don't dissuade the community that's saying, hey, let's get the bar to be where it is. But while we're doing that, and the bar is still where it is, a lot of other communities have a couple crusaders that said, you know, forget it. Let's just go get the bar.
I agree.
Yes, let's do it.
Something that I struggle heavily and for a long time have struggled with before the education, like before the formal education, all that stuff. But something that I've deeply struggled with is that we don't recognize that for what we're calling our community, that there are various different histories, right? And so what I've struggled with is the idea that we expect an entire race to unite to do certain things, but we're comparing the experiences of a race to the experience of a ethnic group, and those are not the same thing.
Yeah. So, to expand the point, there's no one set of people that I think are a monolith.
No, I mean, we know race is a social construct.
You know, everything's tribal, cultural, right? My parents are Jamaican, but if I went to Jamaica, I'd have to learn a lot. I would know a lot, but I'd have to learn a whole lot. I'm Canadian. I don't lie about this. I'm Jamaican. Canadian. I was born here. I'm Canadian.
Can't relate.
Sorry?
Can't relate. No, I'm joking. I'm a Canadian that does not claim Canada, but
the pillars, a pillar is still a pillar. A pillar in a light post is still a pillar in a light post, and it does do something. Success in one realm, I do believe through osmosis creates success in other realms.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't think that there will be a direct impact for all people of Nubian color everywhere. But the rub is worth the journey. There is a rub.
Yeah, and I mind you, I am not at all here saying that we should not acquire keys or that we should like I am not of that perspective at all. I'm actually of the opposite perspective. Yeah. And this probably goes back to the process versus the, you know what I mean? Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think sometimes we don't actually pay attention to how gravely the differences in various Black communities' histories change how we interact with getting the keys.
Of course, yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
And I think that's what I often struggle with is that like the history of my Grenadian people is so gravely different than the history of Nigerian people.
Massive.
And you see those differences in our communities.
Massive, yeah.
Right? And so I think that I'm trying to pull everything that I'm thinking into one thing, but I think what I'm saying is that there are some of us who have the keys, and I don't want to separate that from historical experiences.